Okay, so we're back now. We've upgraded the Toshiba laptop and let's give that a boot up now and see how that performs. So you'll see it come up and the boot time and how long it takes. So we're into what, 9 seconds, 10 seconds, 11 along those lines. Is a SSD, so we should have a clean boot up, and it'll ask us to log in because now it's Windows. There we go. So that's logging in right now. We've also upgraded the RAM on this, so now it will have a bit more snappy RAM. It'll be a bit more responsive. I'm using the wrong mouse there. So if I do, let's do a quick look at what we have got on here now. Task Manager, Performance and Processes running. So CPU, it's still using a big amount of this. Hello and welcome to the Hyping Tech channel. So you would have seen my small preview there. To save you watching this whole thing, I put at the start of this video basically what I've upgraded and how the machine performs. It's a 10-year-old machine, so you need to keep that in mind. This is what we did to it. It had Windows 7 Lite. We basically changed that to Windows 10 Home 64-bit, and for 64-bit you need a minimum of 2 GB RAM. So we upgraded the 1 gig to a 2 gig. We got rid of the mechanical hard drive and put an SSD in there. And also we did a big job. We took the whole laptop apart and we updated the CPU and GPU thermal paste. We tested the battery and that did not hold charge for very long, only 5 to 10 minutes. So that's basically what we've changed on this old Centrino machine, and it performs very well as a notebook. So if you have an old machine and you're thinking about upgrading it, I think it is well worth banging in a bit of extra RAM and an SSD. We did some GPU testing on it and thermal testing as well, just to make sure what we did was good. This is a test preview screen of everything we did once the machine was all upgraded. So before we get onto the upgrade, let's have a quick look at what this machine already has and what we're planning to do, and a little bit of testing just to kind of give you an idea of what old machines can be like. Okay, so we're doing the first test, boot time. So you'll be able to see on the clock when I start, and I'll say 3, 2, 1. And that is a kickoff right now. So we're just making sure the computer starts up. We've got some upgrades planned, which we'll do a bit later on, but this is just checking the health of the PC at the moment. So starting Windows. So while that's booting up, so we get true reflection of the time, I'll let that run, is Windows 7. I'll tell you a bit about Toshiba Satellite. So the Toshiba Satellite is a line of consumer grade notebook computers marketed by Toshiba and were some of the earliest laptops introduced in the early 1990s to compete with the IBM ThinkPad line. You can see it's booted into Windows quite quickly there. It's got a mechanical hard drive and there is the mouse ready to be used. So the current spec of this computer is Intel Core 2 Duo CPU 2 GHz, and it's a Satellite L300, 1 GB of memory for the RAM, which is not too bad for what it's running at the moment, but we wanted to run Windows. Okay, it's a Microsoft Windows 7 Super Light is the actual make user processor. So let's go back to the previous screen. Applications, processes, services, performance. Hard drive, we're already at 880 megabytes of the RAM, and that's only opening up one tab. So if I go to memory, you'll see there now we've only got 80 megabytes free, which is not a lot, so we can't open a couple of tabs up here. If you're not familiar with RAM, you can check out my previous video about the RAM. Okay, now 0 megabytes free, so we're actually using a maximum RAM, so we definitely need to give it a bit more RAM. We'll update Windows in the process because I think it'll give it a bit of a boost. Battery time, so it's fully charged at the moment, but based on taking the charger out and leaving it, in about 5 minutes or 10 minutes it goes flat, so the battery's dead as well. So let's start looking at what we can improve on this satellite Toshiba laptop L300. Let's just see how long it takes to shut down. That would be a good one as well. Shut down. Okay, so it's shutting down now. Logging off. So these line of computers are mainly made to compete with the IBM ThinkPad line, which varied quite a lot in the family. Satellite were various models, from entry-level models sold at major retailers to flagship media center class notebooks, and there's multiple CPUs in them. So there you go. Okay, so now down to the teardown. I've speeded this up a little bit just to avoid totally boring the hell out of you, but it gives you an idea of what I'm doing. I'm basically removing the screws from the base. I've taken the SSD out, the mechanical drive, even the RAM, and now I'm just taking the bits off. So while I do this, I'll give you a little bit of background music and some facts about the laptop as well. So basically you want to take the laptop battery off, you want to remove all the bits that you don't want, and the laptop itself, if you weren't aware, it's an Intel Core 2 Duo 2.1 GHz processor. It's integrated graphics, there's RAM in there, it's a 15.4 inch screen, and they are actually decent built like tank work machines. And back in the day when they were released, they were about 10 years old, and you could easily expect to pay $949. So you're looking at between the £700 and £800 range. And that was depending on the spec. And the Satellite Pro L300 has a very simple design. It's designed to be straightforward and give you what you need. Even today it types very nicely. The chassis is a solid chassis, and overall design, it doesn't feel cheap at all. It feels great and heavy and quite a high standard. If you're used to smaller laptops, it may not be ideal for you. It weighs about 5.7 pounds, and it's usually depending on what you've got in there. So we're going to have a mechanical hard drive which is going to be removed. The outside is a plastic design, and it shows signs of flex and slight movement, but you can be expected. It's nothing worrying. The display actually is quite nice on this. It's a vivid display. It doesn't do it justice when I record it because I'm basically recording the screen itself. And the keyboard and touchpad are nice. The click pad has a nice click to it, and it doesn't show any signs of flex. It's no matter how hard you type. So when you're bashing on the keys, it's actually quite good. It's nice size keyboard, so it's great for typing if you're doing a bit of word processing and you want something light. As in, does not distract you. You can actually have a word processor on there and you can use it. Performance wise, you can run a couple of programs on there without any problems. You're going to have to upgrade your RAM, which is what we're doing at the moment. You can open up a couple of processing documents. You can open up a couple of tabs with some music on and some headphones, and you'll be perfectly fine. The temperatures were quite high on it, so while it was idle, we were looking at about 55 to 60 degrees, which is a tad high. And you'll see once we've done the thermal paste, where we're slowly getting towards, we're basically going to get the fan out, clean the fan up, get rid of all the dust, and repaste the processor, and that will help us to lower the temperatures, which will make it run smoother and not bottleneck and not have any issues when running programs. Design wise, it's actually laid out quite nicely. There's enough ports on there. You get 2 USB ports on the left side, another right USB for a mouse, and you can see here, look at that, it was just budged into the heat sinks. This is where the air is blown, the hot air is blown out of the system, but because it's filled with this, I'm assuming it's dust that's built up over time, it wasn't doing a great job of dispelling the heat. So now that we're cleaning this out, that will help it get rid of the warm air and the heat from the CPU. Originally, the system would have had probably about 3 hours of battery life, but that depends on the battery. You can see here the thermal paste is very flaky and it's not great at all. And the GPU had some type of, you don't get these stickers which are not great at the moment to dispel the heat. So we're going to resync both of those. Heat and noise, so they can run up to under 100 degrees if you don't keep an eye on them or you're working on them extensively. So overall, the laptop, it's a solid design, great keyboard, nice screen, good array of ports, and has an optical drive. The things you want to worry about is the touchpad can slightly be slow for the mouse, and it's a little heavy side. It's simple, plain design, but you're not going to get threats of it being stolen, so people will look at it and just not give it a second glance. So that's worth considering. Now, gaming wise, it's not a great gaming machine, but you can get away with some light gaming on it. Right now I'm just cleaning the process heatsink and the fan. I'm just getting rid of all the bits I can get off safely. It's a great machine overall, and if you've got a machine, is it worth spending the time? I think it is, because right now, even if you were to get a notebook or a Chromebook, like a Celeron processor notebook or something, it'll be very similar to this machine. And considering this machine is like 10 years old, it actually holds its own. I would consider using it as a typing. If you're doing blogs and writing and stuff, you can actually use it for typing out articles. And it's very nice. It's got a good feel for it. It's like a typewriter. Well, it probably weighs as much as a typewriter. It's quite a hefty thing, but it does feel satisfying using it for typing. And overall, we've basically taken out the dust there, and we're packaging that up. We're going to note it down and send it off to the lab for analysis to find out what exactly was in this. So it's yeah, I think that's as much as I can give you information wise about the laptop itself. In benchmarks overall, I think it performed considerably well for a 10-year-old machine with a Centrino processor. So in theory, it's got one processor with hyper threading, so it's got two sets of, you could call, processors that I can use on. And online it's not getting great results, but it's something to consider. If you're picking it up cheap or you're getting it free, then it's worth looking at. If you already have it, then yes, clean it up, get it up and running, and it's worth investing a bit of time in. About an hour's worth of work, and you can get it updated with a bit of RAM and SSD hard drive, which are fairly cheap these days. So that's me cleaning off the old paste off the CPU, and that will get you up and running. So I'll let you watch the rest of this, and then I'll come back to you once, well, you've already seen the preview how it performs, but I'll give you a bit more information, and we're going to test it out with a game as well. Okay, so we're back now. We've upgraded the Toshiba laptop, and let's give that a boot up now and see how that performs. So you'll see it come up and the boot time and how long it takes. So we're into what, 9 seconds, 10 seconds, 11. Along those lines is a SSD, so we should have a clean boot up, and it'll ask us to log in because now it's Windows. There we go. So that's logging in right now. We've also upgraded the RAM on this, so now we will have a bit more snappy RAM. It'll be a bit more responsive. I'm using the wrong mouse there. So if I do, let's do a quick look at what we have got on here now. Task Manager, performance and processes running. So CPU, it's still using a big amount of the CPU starting up. However, if you notice RAM, we're only using half of the RAM now. We've got 2 gigs, so we doubled what we originally had, which now means we can do something like multiple programs at the same time. So I've got a tab open there. Let's open up another one and another one and another one, because you can easily have 4 tabs without worrying about it. And now you can see the memories still available. So let's open up a couple of more little programs. Okay, temperature's looking acceptable now after that thermal paste job, and we'll leave those tabs open and let's have a quick look at a GTA.
I know a place on the edge of the red light district where we can lay low, but my hands are all messed up, so you better drive, brother.
Okay, so can we play a game on an old... Well, I wonder. Okay, there we go. So that was a nice little look at that.